Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the MTV Studio AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all natural, dry-aged USDA, Pine Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you test their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, the king of all those gigantic and massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes, plus all the others. I gotta tell you folks, the best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceana, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, CBS, NBC Digital, and independent affiliates in select markets. Hotel television, where applicable in all Nielsen-rated markets, as well as Chicago food favorites on Facebook. Fun group, talk about your favorite foods, restaurants, recipes, make some friends, have some fun. Chicago food favorites on Facebook. I don't know about you, but every time I seem to hear something about the WNBA, if it's not something positive from Caitlin Clark or something positive with Sophie Cunningham, it's usually negative, divisive, problematic, controversial. And honestly, part of me gets it, but a really large part of me does not get it. And I don't know whether it is income driven. I don't know if it's we want ours kind of thing driven. I don't know if it's racially driven. I don't know if it is gender driven. I'm not really sure what it is. But there is in my opinion, a negative or dubious stigma amongst a lot of people about the NBA or WNBA. Well, the NBA as well, but more particularly the WNBA. That's where we're going today. And I'm not really sure in some areas why, but the one thing I do know, and this is something that does not sit well with some people, according to Autostraddle, the San Francisco Bay Times, Pink News, and a whole bunch of other sources, let's just go with the San Francisco Bay News, approximately 25 to 20 or to 38% of the WNBA players publicly identify as members of the LGBTQ plus community, with specific tracking groups counting around 53 out gay players on rosters. Exact statistics for non-binary and trans players are rare, as they represent a very small number of individuals rather than a tracked percentage group. And again, folks, look at your favorite search engine. I use the one that rhymes with noodle, and I found this information according to the San Francisco Times and other sources as well. And so they go on to say, trackers like Autostraddle's WNBA LGBTQ plus roster count identify roughly 53 publicly out players making up about 25% of the standard league roster. And that again, that could be found on all those sources that I just gave you. Actually, Autostraddle had that one. But broader media and specialized estimates suggest up to 38% of the total league may identify as LGBTQ+, when including players who are not publicly out. So that's a jump from 25% to 38%. Now also, according to that same search engine that rhymes with noodle, during major showcase events like the All-Star Game, publicly out LGBTQ+ representation climbs even higher, crossing over 45% of participating active players. That's according to Outsports. So the next part of that is that transgender and non-binary representation has its own subheading here, and the WNBA features women as competitors. And while historic and active players include non-binary individuals, they make up an individual level presence rather than a measurable demographic percentage, according to Pink News. Now, you may have heard of a Lycia Clarendon, famously because and became the first openly non-binary and trans player in league history to actively play and undergo top surgery while in the WNBA. Now, in case you don't know what top surgery is, again, we're going to use that exact same engine. And they say, this according to Johns Hopkins and other credible sources, top surgery is a gender-affirming procedure that reshapes the chest. Common methods include double incision, peri-areola, and keyhole surgeries, and it helps align the body with a person's gender identity. And so double incisions, best for larger chest, remove extra tissue and repositions the nipples. And then peri-areolar keyhole procedure, best for smaller chest, uses small cuts around the nipple with minimal scarring. And then breast augmentation, which a lot of people know what that is already. Nonetheless, that's what this situation is. So when they talk about Lycia Clarendon, famously, of course, because of the first openly non-binary and trans player in league history, why is that important? I'm going to tell you why that's important. Because we go back to the idea of league rules. So let's go back to our favorite search engine, and we'll put WNBA, and we'll put league rules for testosterone. Okay. So, according to the WNBA does not maintain a specific league rulebook threshold is the key word, or restriction targeting testosterone levels for players. Okay, but I've got conflicting data on that. Unlike international track and field of certain other federations, the league operates under collective bargaining and inclusion guidelines rather than mandatory hormone or genetic testing, according to Yahoo Sports, and another source. Okay, so they say that. However, I'm going to go to something else here. And another search by myself on this same search engine that rhymes with noodle, with information coming directly from PubMed Central, pmc.gov, as well as Wiley Online Library and usada.org, Partnership for Clean Competition. They state very clearly, testosterone is a strictly prohibited anabolic agent under the joint anti-drug program of both the National Basketball Association and the Women's National Basketball Association. So you could see some of the details may be a little bit slanted. You have to dig a little further. And surely, if you're smart and if you're diligent, you will find conflicting data. And the reason it's out there, in my opinion, but it's a little bit hidden, is so people can't easily find it. But it's just like re-engineering or reverse engineering a patent. It's the same idea. You reverse your plan of research. And now I did this recently on weather manipulation and so forth and sports games and whatnot. And I found all kinds of interesting data on a previous show. But my point is conflicting data. And this shows very clearly, according to all of these organizations, again, USADA, Partnership for Clean Competition, the Wiley Online Library, and even PMC.gov. That's right, a government agency. PubMed Central. That's right. Testosterone is banned. So therefore, it's hidden seemingly information from certain audiences. Why does it matter? Because competition matters. That's why. And when you say this non-binary thing, so this Lashia Clarendon is the historic first openly transgender and non-binary player in the WNBA, playing a 12-year career as a guard for Indiana, Atlanta, Connecticut, New York, Minnesota, and Los Angeles. Well, why does it matter? I'll tell you why it matters. Because if this person was taking testosterone, well, guess what? That, to me, sounds like a advantage that is a performance enhancing substance advantage. But it seems like nobody wants to touch it because it's the WNBA. And it's such a hypersensitive, I wouldn't say playing field, we'll say court at this point. It's such a hypersensitive, in my opinion, court that people don't want to talk about it. They're too scared to talk about it. And I say that on break. You'll hear a 30-second spot on the Sports Circus. And what does it say? That 30-second spot says, we'll talk about things that other shows are too scared to talk about. Well, guess what, folks? This happens to be, in my opinion, one of those topics that other shows are too scared to talk about. Worried about losing sponsorships or this or that or the other. When I'm only reciting the data that is documented by scholarly journals or reliable sources. Back here in a few minutes on the circus with more of this circus. Don't go anywhere.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Ignite. We're ready for the fight. Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Make sure you check them out, folks. They've been with us since the very beginning. All right, welcome back to everybody. Listening in on our CBS NBC Sports and everybody tuning in. Everybody tuning in over in Atlanta. Thanks for joining us on WDJY 99.1 FM, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Greater Atlanta Market, right down the road. Columbus, Georgia, all the way over to Montgomery. With that antenna right there in Auburn, Alabama, War Eagle, our friends, WAUD, 1230 on the AM dial. That is home of the Atlanta Braves. Thanks for joining us, 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. Up and down the Midwest, out to our friends in the Mojave Desert between fabulous Las Vegas and sunny Southern California, driving on Interstate 15, listening to the circus right there on 94.9 FM and 96.9 FM, KNAC, Pure Rock. And of course, our friends in Honolulu, thanks for joining us. Actually, throughout the Hawaiian Islands on CBS 1500 KHKA. That's home of the 49ers, Yankees, and Alabama Crimson Tide. And plus everybody else watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, CBS, NBC Digital, and independent affiliates in select markets. Hotel TV, again, same. All Nielsen rated markets, though, where applicable. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, and of course, all of our streamers. I'll get to those in the next break. All right. I left off talking about testosterone and the use, or better yet, the banning of testosterone in the NBA and the WNBA. Why does it matter? Look, there are a lot of question marks with the WNBA as it stands, and it just seems to be a real hot button, and I'm not really sure why. Well, I can't really say my opinion on here because my opinion may not be so favorable as other people may have different opinions. And frankly, I'm not here to divide the audience. I'm here to inform. And that's the part that a lot of people seem to have a problem with. When I put something out there, listen, I'm citing the sources. You could go look the sources up yourself. I'm not spinning anything. I'm telling you what I see, what I read, and I'm point blank. I'm giving you the sources. You can go and check all the sources yourself. And again, scholarly journals or highly reputable organizations or media outlets, whether it's a particular newspaper, a giant media company, a big network, whatever it is. Could be a sports network as well. As a matter of fact, the Lashia Clarendon content comes from ESPN, APB speakers, and other organizations. As a matter of fact, more of that is Pink News, and again, ESPN and Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not a scholarly journal, it's just an aggregator of information. However, most people seem to associate ESPN with a reputable organization, and it's ultimately owned by the Disney Corporation, along with ABC and all this other stuff. So the reason I'm talking about all this is because there's a lot of controversy. Now, this whole non-binary thing it's a whole nother issue. So again, remember, testosterone is strictly prohibited as an anabolic agent under the joint anti-drug program of both the NBA and the WNBA, period. And that is, again, PubMed Central, pmc.gov, and the Wiley Online Library, usada.org, and on we go. So as we look at this, we say, all right, why does it matter? Well, look, when we think about what happens in the WNBA in the first place, okay, as I started at the top of the show, about a third of the players publicly identify in the LGBTQ plus community. And then even up to the All-Star break, when they have the All-Star game or big events, whatnot, even according to Outsports, they say about 45% of the participating active players identify into that same world, which is fine. Frankly, I don't really care. But here's where it matters. So you think about the state of Washington. Now, Washington is a very left-leaning state, Washington State. And so then there's this issue that comes out with Sophie Cunningham fans allege Storm players, the Seattle Storm players, and an executive, heckled girls during a game over support of women's sports. Okay. Now I'm going to get into this. This is by Jackson Thompson. Jackson Thompson from Outkick put this together. And Jackson says witnesses say fans and a team co-owner berated girls wearing XX-XY athletic shirts at the Seattle WNBA game. All right, this came out not too long ago. So, as the story goes, according to Jackson, a night of celebration devolved into a storm of chaos in Seattle. Women who were at the Indiana Fever game against Seattle told Fox News Digital that Storm players and even co-owner Celeste Keaton allegedly made mocking gestures and insults to girls, that's right, to girls who were there to celebrate Sophie Cunningham. Why would the co-owner of a professional sports franchise, let alone anybody, mock girls that are there to celebrate women's sports? What in the world is going on in Seattle? So the Storm provided a statement to Fox News Digital apologizing for the conduct of the co-owner. Imagine that. That's right. The Seattle Storm, their ownership group, was mocking girls. And yet the team, the Seattle Storm team, provided a statement to Fox News Digital apologizing for the conduct of the co-owner. I mean, what world do we live in here? This is crazy. So the statement read, quote, "We are aware one of our co-owners made comments to two fans in attendance at last night's game. We apologize that this happened. Everyone who attends a Storm game deserves to feel welcome, and we remain committed to creating an inclusive environment where every fan is treated with respect," close quote. And again, that's the ownership of the Seattle Storm. How remarkably embarrassing is this? So, and you think about this, Sophie Cunningham and their rally, what did they do? They were rocking WNBA games as, quote, "Save Women's Sports." Activists faced counter protest. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, hey, look, let's support women's sports. But then, when her supporters went inside the arena, they allegedly faced shocking hostility while fans in attendance relentlessly booed Cunningham, mind you, from the moment she touched the ball. Isn't that absurd? And you say, well, how come we don't get behind the WNBA? Well, this is yet just another example of why I don't personally. Now, the group included several teenage girls wearing XXXY athletic shirts and carrying handmade signs thanking Cunningham. Independent journalist Brandy Cruz, who helped organize the gathering, sat near the girls in the courtside seats on the Storm end of the floor. And Cruz said fans began booing the girls when they stood up for photos before the game and between quarters. That's right, the fans were booing them because they were standing up for women's sports. As a matter of fact, Cruz told Fox News Digital, quote, "Some of the fans were relentlessly booing at them, and I kind of turned around and said, look, they're just teenage girls," close quote. Now, Cruz said she also personally witnessed, quote, "a couple," close quote, "of Storm players direct thumbs down gestures towards the girls." Are you kidding me? That's right. The players were doing this. Now, I know two Seattle Storm former players, and one of them identifies in that LGBTQ plus crowd and the other one doesn't. But why in the world would they do this? As a matter of fact, Cruz said, quote, they were giving them thumbs down like to their faces, close quote. Can you imagine that? Cruz did not hear the players say anything to the girls and could not identify which players made the gestures. How convenient is that? And the night took a more emotional turn at halftime. I mean, this is disgusting. One of the 16-year-old girls had already texted Cruz that nearby fans were making comments about her shirt and Sophie Cunningham. Cruz later looked across the court and saw the girl sobbing in her front row seat. As a matter of fact, Cruz said, quote, I look over at halftime and she's sobbing. They were so excited for those seats, like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see some of their favorite players, they stayed up the night before making signs, close quote. So, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. When we come back from break, I want to pick up on this because the behavior of the ownership, this is where we're going, folks. Is this what the WNBA is all about? And you wonder why they're having a hard time selling tickets and getting TV contracts and all this other crap? Ask yourself, the behavior of the ownership group and players, they're booing and mocking and or heckling these young kids because they believe in women's sports? That's unbelievable. Back here in a few minutes with more of this mess here on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guest, our prior guest, recorded shows which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, Libsyn, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, check out the partners page. Lots of great partners at thesportscircus.com. One of those, one of our favorites, Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you can't make it over there for some incredible food, make sure you check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. Yes, they can ship it to you. They overnight. Nothing is frozen. Everything is fresh. It is really, really good, folks. They created the sandwich 120 years ago. Often imitated, never, ever duplicated. It really is that different. They opened their first store in 1938, still going strong. They're friends of the show. I don't get anything for saying this. Maybe an extra sandwich every now and then, but tell you what, folks, I talk about it because it's great food. And the people that work hard in the restaurant, guess what? They deserve an enormous round of applause, just like you, for considering going to Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Make sure you read about them at alsbeef.com. All right, welcome back to everybody. TV and radio. We're talking about this complete lunacy of part of the ownership group for the Seattle Storm WNBA team getting in on heckling young girls that believe in women's sports and that men should stay out of women's sports. I don't see anything wrong with that. And so the ownership group, mind you, somebody in the ownership group, one of the co-owners, and a couple of the players gesturing, saying things, whatever, technically, verbal, assault, whatever. We're talking 16-year-old girls. Chance of a lifetime to have courtside seats kind of thing. Take pictures, and I tell you what, folks, the part that really drives me crazy about this is that, look, women should play women's sports, men should play men's sports. Men, by genetics, are 40% stronger than women. The men that play women's sports, in my opinion, they're not good enough to compete in men's sports, so they have to go to play against the women, get the scholarships, and essentially take over all the record books and all this other crap. And of course, the federal government stepped in, which is fantastic, to say, hey, you're not going to compete, mister, in female sports. No, that's not going to happen. We're not going to allow that. I love the fact that the federal government stepped in and said, no, that's not happening, not on our watch, and maybe in prior administrations. And what's interesting is that those people that dislike the current administration, they will do anything and everything to try to tear down, destroy, defame, whatever, the current administration. It is what it is. We're all in the same country. Well, guess what? Here's the one thing that those people from the ownership group, or that particular person from the ownership group, now, in case you don't know who it is, I'm going to tell you who it is. So next time you happen to run into Celeste Keaton, co-owner of the Seattle Storm, maybe you can ask Celeste Keaton about all of this, and maybe you'll get a different answer. I don't know. I don't know Celeste Keaton. Doesn't matter to me. But here's what I do know. If you're verbally assaulting, or if you're assaulting people, it's a crime. But how about this? In Washington State, penalties for assault against minors. That's right. These young ladies were minors. Charged under specific assault of a child. Statutes for adults 18 and older against children are categorized by degrees. Oh yeah, this is washington.gov. First degree, Class A felony, carrying up to life imprisonment and a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years of total confinement. How about a second degree, Class B felony, carrying up to 10 years in prison? And a lesser third degree, Class C felony, carrying up to 5 years in prison. So the breakdown is this, real simple. Assault of a child in the first degree, Class A felony, applies when an adult recklessly inflicts great bodily harm or intentionally causes substantial bodily harm, a pattern of abuse to a child, we'll say under 13, according to this particular law. Now, assault of a child in a second degree, that is bodily harm, etc., and transient pain, etc. Now, how is the pain measured? Is the pain measured psychologically? Because there is psychological damage, as we know. And you could contact your favorite law group and you can ask all those questions. Yes, I have a law degree. I am not citing anything other than what is on the website for the state of Washington. So let's do something and let's just throw in verbal assault, just because. We'll put verbal assault of a minor. How's that? And I want to put in the state of Washington. So you could do the same exact thing as I am doing here. Now there is a whole nother set of classification. Mind you, one of the co-owners of the Seattle Storm. Although in Washington State, according to sources, there is no specific criminal charge called verbal assault. Verbal abuse alone, such as yelling or name-calling, does not meet the legal definition of criminal assault. However, if the spoken words involve threats, sexual content, which this may, or severe disruption, the act is prosecuted under other specific statutes. Criminal harassment, if the verbal communication includes knowingly making a threat to cause bodily injury, property damage, or physical confinement, it is charged as criminal harassment under RCW 98.46.020. So standard penalty in this kind of situation, gross misdemeanor, punishable by 364 days in jail and a $5,000 fine. Now, felony harassment, I don't know what the interpretation is here, but I got to tell you, this is the owner heckling and talking smack to minors. That's right. That's right. And those kids, what do? Apparently they or somebody bought their tickets and paid this ownership group money to go to a game, not to be harassed and talked smack to by whom? By one of the owners of the Seattle Storm. Felony harassment, elevated to a Class C felony up to 5 years in prison if the person threatens to kill the minor or has prior harassment convictions. I don't think they did that, but the point is, communicating with a minor for immoral purposes. Well, this may qualify because it certainly seems immoral, and it depends on interpretation as I see it. Just depends on what the case study is and what the case law is. Now, if an adult under 18 uses verbal or electronic communication, well, this is verbal in this case, to directly suggest or predatory language, whatnot, at a minor, it's prosecuted under RCW 9.68A.090. Now, if you don't know what that is, well, guess what? It's commercial sexual abuse of a minor. Penalty, consent of a minor does not constitute defense. So therefore, it's in person. Gross misdemeanor, carrying up to 1 year in jail, $5,000 fine. And this is not electronic, so that doesn't work. Now it's disorderly conduct. There's another side of this. Why are we talking about it? Because we can, and people need to hear about this. If the verbal abuse occurs in a public space, which it did, that was at this particular climate pledge arena. So if that is the case, disruptive, loud shouting, or using abusive language that intentionally creates a risk of public disturbance, which in this particular case it certainly appears to have, it can be charged under RCW 9A.84.030. That's right. Now, again, that is according to in this one we have many sources. And these are law offices of Molly B. Kenny, whoever she may be, but obviously attorney in the area. And that is also state code. The penalty is misdemeanor, punishable by up to 90 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. So I want to know, I would love to know, can somebody please tell me if Celeste Keaton will be pursued under code RCW 9A.84.030? because it sure seems to me that is a state code violation for disorderly conduct, abusive language in a public place, creating the risk of a public disturbance. Mind you, it's against a minor on top of it. That's right, folks. That's the ownership of the Seattle Storm. Can you imagine that? What a complete abomination to the WNBA. And you ask why people don't like to go to these games? Maybe they don't want to be talked at in a particular way or verbally assaulted or whatever you want to call it. They don't want any of that chaos. That's right. Back here in a few minutes on the circus, folks. Don't go anywhere.
The show is about to start with a heart of fire and a restless heart. Under the big top where the wild ones reign, Ringmaster Sal, the master of the insane. With a smile painted fierce, he runs the whole game. Loudspeaker voice, calling out all the names. Lions roar and the audience calls. Sal's up there, making sure no one falls. With a crack of the whip, he owns the floor. Life's a circus, baby, and he's wanting more. Hey, 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 this is Ringmaster Sal, bringing the thunder, raising the crowd in the heart of the circus. He's taking the bow, sports in the wild and mixing right now. Hey, 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 feel the roar of the crowd with the heartbeat of rock. He's making us proud under the lights with the fireworks and sound. Ringmaster Sal, he's the king of this town. Acrobat spinning, the flying so high. Trapeze in the air, he's grinning up to the sky. Glitter and sweat running through his veins. A juggler of dreams where thrill never wanes. From the roar of the game to the thrill of the show, he's got the spirit, he's the star of the glow. With athletes colliding, the passions collide. In the ring with Sal, there's nowhere to hide. Hey, this is Ringmaster Sal, bringing the thunder, raising the crowd in the heart of the circus. He's taking a bow, sports in the wild, we're mixing right now. Yeah, feel the roar of the crowd with the heartbeat of rock. He's making us proud under the lights with the fireworks and sound. Ringmaster Sal, he's the king of this town. So step right up for the ride of your life. It's Ringmaster Sal, cutting through like a knife. Together we rise and together we fall. In the wild, wild circus where we give it our all.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure to check out the store at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great items, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, ball caps, beanie hats, sweatpants, sweat coats, travel mugs, coffee mugs, pillows, blankets, mouse pads, all kinds of great items with the clever Sports Circus logo on them. That's the store at thesportscircus.com. Make sure you check that store out. Mention my name, Ringmaster Sal, for an extra 10% off your first order. All right, nice round of applause for thesportscircus.com and the store. Good. All right, welcome back, everybody, on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, WOW, NBC, CBS, Digital, Charter, and all kinds of other affiliates in select markets. Thanks for watching us there. Also on Chicago Food Favorites. Thanks for joining that group. And if you haven't joined it yet, make sure you check it out. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, a fun group where you can talk about your favorite foods, restaurants, recipes, make some friends in all four corners of the earth for all you flat earthers out there. That's right. And have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Now, today's show, going back to the beginning, we're talking about this transgender thing in the WNBA. Why is the WNBA always so damn controversial? You know, it seems to me, like for myself, this is my experience, I can speak of my experience. It seems as though the league, look, the quality of games are good. It's real shooting, real mid-range shots, real threes, real dribble drive, real stuff. You don't see the slam dunks. You don't see all of that stuff. And you see real basketball being played. It's a really good brand of game, but there's so much political crap, in my opinion, with it. So much, I don't know, so many distractions, put it that way. And so here we have the story of the Sophie Cunningham situation. And Sophie Cunningham fans allege that the Seattle Storm players, and yes, one of the owners, heckled girls, underage girls, during a game, over support of women's sports. And this originally came out by Jackson Thompson from Outkick, and it went everywhere. And I pulled this one off of Fox News Digital. And what a disturbing situation. The girls were simply protecting or advocating for women's sports. So boys don't play in girls' sports. Men don't play in women's sports. That kind of thing. Wearing XXXY shirts and stuff like that. All kinds of garbage. I mean, it's terrible. Even the reporter, one of the reporters said that, I guess, Cruz, I want to make sure we get this right. So independent journalist Brandy Cruz, that's all right. So talking to Fox News Digital, stating that she saw all kinds of terrible things. And she said she also personally witnessed a couple of the Storm players. That's right, a couple of the players during the game direct thumbs down gestures towards the girls. That's right. 2 players, thumbs down from the Seattle Storm. And the ownership group, that would be Celeste, I have the name right, Celeste Keaton, if I'm not mistaken. Celeste Keaton, let me just double check that. Yeah, Celeste Keaton. So check out Celeste Keaton, co-owner of the Seattle Storm. All right, and first of all, why does this happen? Look, these are 16-year-old girls. One of the 16-year-old girls had already texted Cruz that nearby fans were making comments about her shirt. They didn't like the XXXY. And her shirt and Cunningham. That's right. And Sophie Cunningham. And so Cruz later looked across the court and saw that the girls were sobbing in the front row. And look, this is their once-in-a-lifetime chance to actually watch one of these games courtside. And Cruz said, quote, "I looked over at halftime and she's sobbing. They were so excited for those seats, like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see some of their favorite players. They stayed up the night before making signs," close quote, etc., etc. Okay, so the reality is, look, Cruz said the girls then told her that an older woman associated with the Storm, this is crazy, had approached them and yelled at them and called them F.ing insane, close quote. That's right, somebody associated with the team. Imagine that. I mean, this is ridiculous. So the girls later pointed out the woman sitting directly across from them beside Storm legend and team co-owner Sue Bird, according to Cruz. That's right. The girls later pointed out the woman sitting directly across from them beside Storm legend and team co-owner Sue Bird. When Cruz alerted an arena security guard, she said the guard identified the woman as, quote, one of the owners of the team, close quote. So Cruz, this is crazy, later identified the woman as Keaton, Celeste Keaton, who had previously been publicly identified as a member of the Storm's ownership group. Can you imagine? That's right. The ownership calling them that. And this is crazy. Cruz says she pressed security to confront the woman, arguing that the alleged conduct violated the arena's code of conduct. Climate Pledge Arena prohibits abusive or obscene language and says violators may be ejected. And I gave you a code, and it is RCW 9A Apple.84.030. The verbal abuse, that's right. If the verbal abuse is disorderly conduct, if the verbal abuse occurs in a public space and involves loud, disruptive shouting or using abusive language, which this one certainly qualifies, that intentionally creates a risk of public disturbance, which it certainly did, it can be charged under RCW 9A.84.030. That is criminal. You can't do that. And that's the Seattle Storm ownership. Can you imagine the embarrassment of the balance of the ownership? That's crazy. And obviously this is against the stadium itself. This is against the stadium's policy. I mean, this is crazy to imagine. I'm just scratching my head like, how does this happen? So security personnel instead recommended that Cruz contact the Storm's front office after the game. And Cruz also claimed that the girls were not forced to put down their sign in support of Cunningham despite online rumors, but they chose to put them down after alleged harassment. Now they're harassing minors. So Cruz said, quote, the report that they told girls to put those signs away is not true. The girls put their signs away because of what happened with Celeste Keaton, the owner, and one of the owners. And they just felt so scared and uncomfortable they decided not to hold them anymore, close quote. So Cruz and rally organizer Amy Souza said supporters deliberately left signs promoting Washington Initiative 638 outside because they understood that political signs were not permitted inside the arena. So there's a ballot measure that, of course, would prohibit students. It defines as biologically male from competing in certain K-12 athletic events designated for women or female students. However, the arena displayed, quote, no hate in Washington state, close quote, signs opposing the initiative on its video board throughout the game, according to both women. And Cruz said two security guards told her the Storm had made a one-night exception to its political signage restriction for the opposition campaign. Now, Climate Pledge Arena's publicly posted sign policy does not expressly prohibit political messages, but it bars commercial, derogatory, insulting, obscene, or culturally disrespectful signs and gives management discretion to reject signs it deems appropriate or inappropriate. Now, Storm Center Stephanie Dolson also arrived wearing a shirt that read, quote, trans rights are human rights, close quote. The team posted photos of Dolson wearing the shirt on social media, and Dolson shared a post. Cruz said Dolson later stood and applauded demonstrated when the, quote, no hate, close quote, sign appeared on the arena's video board, and she viewed the gesture as directed towards Cunningham supporters seated nearby. Now, the arena also erupted in loud boos when Cunningham entered the game and when she attempted her first free throw. In fact, Cruz said it was very loud. They booed Sophie so loud I was shocked. And Cruz claimed that when the arena Jumbotron showed fans wearing shirts in support of trans people, Dolson clapped demonstratively on the court. And Souza, who organized the gathering outside the Climate Pledge Arena, said that she also heard the boos, but stressed that the reception was not uniformly hostile. As a matter of fact, Souza told Fox News Digital, quote, "For the most part, I was happily surprised. I was surprised at how many people sitting in our area who were not of our group were thanking us for being there," close quote. So Souza did not witness the alleged exchange with Keaton or the players' gestures, but she learned about those incidents afterwards. And however, she provided footage to Fox News Digital of an adult man. That's right. Adult man confronting members of the group as they left the arena and repeatedly tell them to, quote, "take out the trash," close quote. Can you imagine? I mean, this is the kind of crap that they're dealing with. I mean, look, there is a whole big to-do about this whole thing. Now, mind you, the Indiana Fever, meanwhile, distanced the organization and Cunningham from the rally, and a team public relations representative interrupted when the head coach, Stephanie White, was asked about the gathering during her post-game press conference and said, quote, "Neither our organization nor Sophie had any knowledge of the demonstration and no contact with its organizers," close quote. Of course, they have to distance themselves. So neither Sophie Cunningham or Caitlin Clark was made available to reporters after the game. And so obviously they want to stay far away from this as much as possible. But can you imagine? Now, they say, well, there's no trans in the WNBA. But remember, when you think about when you're going from female to male in this whole transgender man thing, guess what they receive? Testosterone, which is a what? Performance-enhancing drug, prohibited by the WNBA. That's according to Mayo Clinic, as far as the receiving testosterone. You can question the Mayo Clinic all you want, but they're the gold standard in medical treatment. That's right. So look, you ask, why does the WNBA do this? I don't know. Why do they have controversy? I don't know. Why is it that this happens in the WNBA? I have no damn clue. All I know is it's wrong on every level. And as I see it, the ownership, Celeste Keaton, should be charged under RCW 9A.84.030. That's right, for disorderly conduct. Look it up, folks. It's a real thing. This whole thing is disgusting. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. So long, everyone.
Retail for your next car. Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.